The government shutdown throws a wrench right in the middle of the harvest season. The Farm Bill faces more challenges, yet there is hope. And floodwaters coming in from Colorado, irrigators are able to capitalize it. Plus, you get to see some great harvesting equipment. It's all tonight on NTV's Grow. First of all, farmers, they're right in the thick of it in the harvest season right now, as you can even see right here behind me. Now, not only during harvest season are they working overtime to get the crop out of the field, they're also checking prices and making plans for next year's crop. The government shutdown has made this a little bit more difficult. It delays crucial information farmers use to plant and market their crops. Among the casualties are reports put out by the National Agricultural Statistics Service. Farmers use them to help price crops and livestock and decide what crops to grow and when to sell them. It's also postponing the payouts of subsidies to the nation's growers, and farm service offices closed. And this shutdown has added more challenges to passing a farm bill. The extension has been expired now, and many wonder if the farm bill is ever going to pass in Washington. Senator Mike Johans, he weighs in on the status of the farm bill and also what needs to be done to keep pushing it forward.
Current livestock programs in the farm bill have expired, including important risk management tools like the Livestock Indemnity Program, which is also known as LIP. I am hopeful critical risk management programs, which were reauthorized in the Senate and the House-passed versions of the Farm Bill, will be back up and running very soon as a part of a long-term, market-oriented Farm Bill. There's a lot of work left to do, but I believe the House and the Senate can come to an agreement. Just last week, the Senate announced Farm Bill conferees to work with the House to iron out the differences in each chamber's legislation. This announcement puts us one step closer to giving our ag producers the certainty that they need. And it couldn't have come at a better time, as ag producers are dealing with late season tornadoes and early season snow. Unforeseen tragedies like this show just how important it is to have modern ag policies that assist with risk management so our producers can continue to fuel and feed an ever-growing world.
Speaking of the shutdown, we invite you to be a part of the discussion. Go to our website, nebraska.tv, click on NTV's Grow, where you can vote in our poll question. We want to know how the shutdown is affecting you. Some are already feeling the impacts of the government shutdown. Without those USDA reports, it's hard to pinpoint exactly how harvest is doing across the state. NTV's Grow co-host Steve White has the full report.
There's no estimate this week, no government report because of that shutdown. But based on the numbers local elevators and individual farmers are seeing, there's plenty of room for optimism.
Kind of had a little setback last week with about a 3 to 5 inch rain.
This growing season is ending the way it started, with wild weather. Snow delayed planting and rain has delayed harvest, not to mention lingering drought. Despite it all, soybean fields look good, and farmers like Doug Sadoff are excited to start corn harvest.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic. I've heard some guys that have started already, and it's just the yields have been outstanding.
Even with weekly reports falling victim to the federal shutdown, analysts have crunched the numbers and agree farmers should be optimistic.
It looks to be good. We're hearing nothing but ideal yields. Eastern part of the Corn Belt, they're further along than us, and those guys are really pleased with their yields.
But with strong supply, prices have fallen. Because of that, co-ops like CPI have less grain on the books. That's because farmers like Doug are holding it back, hoping they can sell later when prices rebound in the spring.
And I think I'm going to try and store most of my corn on the farm if I can, and just kind of wait and see what the market does, capture that carry.
The amount of corn carried into the new year could be 2 billion bushels.
Normally is a large, but in today's world, when we have such huge demand, one bad hiccup, of course, and we can go back up to $7 or $8 in a hurry. But if we can make it this year with a good harvest, we'll have plenty of supplies to get us through for the next year too.
But first they need to get beans and corn from the field to the grain bin, because this is payday for a farmer like Doug.
This is our business, and this is how we make money.
Local elevators are all geared up for that grain. CPI alone has more than 80 million bushels of capacity. They continue to add more space to hold more grain and more speed, getting that harvest in even quicker. Steve White, NTV News, Grand Island.
Farmers in many states are surprised at the abundance of corn coming from their fields this fall, and some states may even see a record harvest. The USDA estimates this year's harvest to bring in 13.8 billion bushels of corn, beating the 2009 record of 13.1 billion bushels. As for cattle producers, there was that big snowstorm that hit the Nebraska Panhandle and western South Dakota. Ranchers report heavy cattle losses. And here's a look at what happened in the Panhandle and the impact, but we do want to warn you, some of the images may be a little bit disturbing.
As ranchers went out to check their cattle yesterday and today, many of them knew that what they found wouldn't be pretty, and it certainly wasn't. They found cattle huddled up along fence lines, along creek bottoms, and in road ditches, all dead. Sylvia Kristen with the South Dakota Stock Growers Association says she's talked to ranchers who've lost 20 to 50% of their cattle. One rancher near Union Center told me today he was on horseback the entire morning and didn't find one live animal. Sylvia Kristen says some ranchers may not recover from the losses for years. She says, though, efforts are underway at the state level to get some assistance to these ranchers.
You know, we had a conference call this morning with the Secretary of Ag, some staff from the governor's office, various emergency operations people, and also the brand board to put a plan in place for what we can do for these producers to get on the ground and help them a little bit.
But there was a bitter statement from Senator Tim Johnson's office today that the losses come at the very time the USDA's farm service offices have been shut down. As a result, the senator says ranchers won't even be able to document their losses. The dead cattle not only represent a huge financial loss, but will present an increasing health risk as the weather warms. Thousands of carcasses will have to be disposed of in the coming days.
There's a health hazard with those animals laying out there in the ditches, and it also is just they need to be picked up. We need to identify whose animals those are and make sure that the ranchers also can compensate or account for all of their livestock.
The blizzard killed huge numbers of cattle because of the unique nature of the storm. Ranchers say the heavy, wet snow stuck to the cattle's hair and made them soaking wet. Then, freezing temperatures and 70-mile-an-hour winds chilled the animals until they died of exposure. Most of the cattle will be discovered and disposed of in the coming days, but some are probably buried under snowdrifts and won't be discovered until spring.
Some area ranchers are willing to donate a few head from their own herd. But after discovering massive amounts of mixed-up cattle and downed fences, the plans to send breeding stock will have to wait. The main focus now is on the recovery process and sending relief 3, 2, 1. The main focus now is on the recovery process and sending relief aid. If you want to send a contribution, there is a Cattleman Relief Fund set up for Nebraska ranchers dealing with the loss. The address is on your screen. South Dakota Rancher Relief Fund will also send relief assistance to South Dakota livestock producers. And even more trouble for cattle producers as a fatal disease found in deer is showing up in some cattle in North Dakota. Cattle cases of EHD have been reported in several counties. The State Game and Fish Department last month suspended further sales of deer hunting licenses because of an outbreak of EHD in deer. White-tailed deer that are infected by EHD almost always die, but infected cattle usually recover. The disease poses no threat to people. The disease has also been found in deer in Montana, South Dakota, and Wyoming this year. Well, forget about a finance degree. You can study farming instead. That's what a well-known financial commentator recently told CNBC. Jim Rogers said young people should be better off with agriculture degrees than MBAs. Roger argues the finance field is in decline, and when you consider we have to feed a growing world, experts say agriculture is much more compelling than the world of finance, with bigger solutions to find. Well, it just keeps getting bigger and better. Check out some new harvesting equipment, plus we have your grow forecast. That's later on here in the show. Stay with us.